no one ever tells you that there's, how do I put this? Before I got married, and you mentioned assigning, this is something that I heard of vaguely, until you say, you know what, I don't want to do this and this. I'll probably be the girl in the good book, the one who's not a spoiling wife. I want to make sure that I take the thing that I can handle. And I think I'm going to take things like the pantry, the food budget. That's the one I'm going to take care of. I'll be the one, honey, to make sure that I buy the food. Little did I know.
Yeah, I know it's a pitfall that everybody falls into. It depends on how you define monthly shopping.
Yes.
And as my fiance and I, we just sat down and decided this is how we'll define monthly shopping. There's the hard foods, rice, sugar,
Yes.
The other extras like jam.
Yes. Jams are in the extras.
Yeah. Okay. So you just put all that together and you say this is our budget for the month.
Yes.
But it never really does finish the month.
Never.
So I think a good rule of thumb is to have a baseline of, say, okay, we need 2 packets of flour, and put that in the monthly budget, so that when you say we are doing the monthly shopping and this is how we'll split it, you already know. But then there's something else that people don't look at. Groceries, really expensive, because you see, you can budget to either you'll say, okay, this month we spent 5k on tomatoes, but next month the price of tomatoes shoots up.
Yes.
So you'll spend 8k and things like that. So a lot of food budget is incidental. It changes month on month.
Right.
And I think it's one of the things that people need to start learning: home economics. How long does the food go? And how much food do we consume? And then also remember that even as you do the food, we are Africans. We are always having guests. So if you decide we are going to buy 4 full chicken and say, okay, we are set for the week, but then guests come.
What are you going to do? You have to pull out the chicken, yeah.
So plan for that, knowing that, okay, this month, have a baseline and say every month we consume this much in food. But then also remember that food prices vary. So if you say, okay, I'll be the wife that does the food budget. Know that the food budget most times is never really fixed.
Actually, if I had this conversation with you about 6-7 years ago, I probably wouldn't have taken that on myself, because things change. Birthday parties come in the middle of the month. There's this, there's that, and then it's up to you to get creative and figure out how you're going to still maintain that.
As a couple, talk and review.
Absolutely.
And say, we had this, our food budget last month was this much. It's gone up to this much. Honey, can you chip in?
Absolutely.
It doesn't hurt to talk about it as a couple. The problem is we don't want to talk about it. We feel like, I'm putting pressure on them. They already have so much on their plate and things like that. And then, unfortunately, what that does is you sit on it, then you start getting irritable over time. So you start taking it out on them for things that they don't know.
Yes.
And maybe they're in a position to help. No one wants to go hungry.
And that is something you could have sorted sooner, and it's now affecting the relationship. So money is a big deal when it comes to how the relationship is going to go moving forward. We're going to be getting into that, and of course, retirement plans and whether people are talking about it. I'll tell you an interesting story about my culture, and when you start talking about wills and retirement, they'll be like, hey,
you're planning to die.
Hey, but Nagi, don't talk like that. But we need to have those conversations. We have a very narrow mindset without foresight about, 10 years, 15 years from now, how secure is my family? How secure am I? Or am I going to be the kind of person who's going to be forever in that cycle of debt and loans and looking forward to highlights like Valentine's Day? Come on, guys. It's those kind of conversations that make you feel like, you know what, it's great to have you in the studio just enlightening us and, unpacking for us what are some of the ways that we can do better. Because for me, I was telling you off air that just like politics and of course financial literacy, you can never stop learning. And
people are ashamed to say they don't know how to treat their money. And a lot of people, it comes with a lot of shame.
Yes.
And a lot of sort of trepidation. You're afraid to say,
right.
Where do I invest my money?
Right.
But then because of that, the new craze that comes on, everybody jumps on it. So, one of my mentors used to say, he coined the saying after, people keep jumping on this trend, and he said, investment in Kenya is quail eggs.
Yes, it is. Oh my gosh, I remember the quail craze, where if you didn't talk quail, you weren't smart enough. And then, of course, there are people who are actually not big risk takers when it comes to investing. They'll be like, you know what, whether it's a greenhouse or quails, I'm going to step back and just watch everybody else do their thing, because this one, too, is a wave that will pass out. How then can we protect young people, or generally the citizenry, from joining stuff that is just a wave or a money-making scheme for somebody else? A lot of people have been victims of these things.
Yeah, I don't think some of these things were just waves. It's the number of people that were doing it. So you need to understand the fundamentals of businesses. Basically, there can only be so many people doing what you're doing. So we can only have so many malls or supermarkets in a certain place.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll start making a loss. So say if you have 14 shops that sell the same thing, but with a population of 100 people, you can't turn a profit.
I agree with you. However, come on, the quail thing, I mean, that was a long shot, to be honest.
No, but there
are there people that who succeeded?
Who made money because they knew where they were going to sell the quail eggs. But everybody else just jumped onto the craze. And that's what I find with a lot of young people. They say, oh, yeah, everyone is being told we all need to be entrepreneurs, but you don't understand the fundamentals of the business you're getting into.
Yes.
So farming, how long does it take the crop to grow? What do you need? How much will it cost you? Such things, before you jump in, first think about it.
Right.
So that when someone comes and says, I have a simplified way of doing it, just give me your money and I invest it. And then so you are able to ask questions and say, okay, that looks like a big risk or a con. Yeah, but because if you don't know how the business works, then it's easy to get conned.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm sure there's that lack of knowledge of whatever it is that you're getting into. It's all about the destination of I need money. I need money. So people are doing whatever it takes to get money. But there's celebrities and icons and moguls in whatever field who say that being in their purpose and doing things that they love is the secret. I don't know if you agree with this. They say chase the dream. Don't go for money first. Go for the thing that you love.
It's a luxury that people who've made it tend to have,
Yeah.
And there's something called profound bullshit. And when someone says
sugar honey iced tea, yes.
It sounds so profound when they say it, you're like, why didn't I think about that?
Yeah.
But for you need to sit down and think there's a difference between inspiration and motivation. Motivation is when you go and watch a kung fu movie. When you walk out of that cinema hall, you feel like you can beat up everybody.
Yes.
But tomorrow morning, you don't feel like you can fight anyone.
You don't even have it in you.
Yeah. While you are watching it, you are motivated. You felt like you needed to do something about it. Inspiration is something that lasts longer. So you say, I want to do this. I want to change 1, 2, 3 things. And that's what drives you. So you're inspired. So whether or not you fail once or twice, you still will go for it because you are not just motivated, you are inspired to do it. And so for a lot of these people, when you listen to them, they say that. But if you look at their younger days, so look at someone like Jay-Z. If Jay-Z comes today and tells you, oh, you need to go after your passion. Yet when he started off,
you're like, that's a little unrealistic. It's kind of hard to buy.
He had to hustle on the streets.
Yes.
He had to do what he had. He had to do a lot of things to get to where he was. So no one tells you about the journey. A lot of these moguls don't tell you about the journey.
Right.
They tell you what they're experiencing once they have made it. And that's where it gets lost. And you'll find a lot of young people reading all these motivational books. But there's nothing wrong with motivational books. But I always find that just because it worked for someone else doesn't mean it will work for you.
Yeah.
So find a way of doing it for yourself. And there's a guy called Jack Welch. He's also a motivational speaker and writer. And he used to say, everybody can make a better burger than McDonald's. But not everybody can make 100 burgers that taste the same. And that's the difference. So if I come to your house today and you make amazing chicken, I love it, I tell you, let's go into business and start selling your chicken recipe. Then today it's good, tomorrow it's bad. So of course people will stop coming to the restaurant that we open. So consistency is everything. So even when you think about these motivational books or these motivational speakers that are telling you to do things a certain way with your money, always ask yourself, it worked for them. Why did it work for them? Because that's always important.
Right.
Yeah. So if today you start selling computers, there is a computer shop in every corner. You try selling phones, there is one on.
You try
corner.
A church, there's a church in every corner.
Yeah,
but
there's a
that's a joke.
But
you know,
it's a good way to break the ice.
I mean, some people are listening to you and they're taking their motivation or inspiration to set up a new church. Yeah. But there's people here listening to the show. They want to earn an honest living. It's just young people who are vibrant and energetic. However, the environment does not necessarily appreciate or understand how things are different. Earlier on, you mentioned the gig culture, where jobs are changing. We've got the robot revolution, where some of the things or definitions of what a job would be is not what it was 10, 15 years ago. We've got relatives who brag about being teachers. It's not really the job right now. Okay,
it's not the job.
It's not the job.
And
it's not.
You know, the thing about the gig economy is it exploits more of your talent, but then it sells something that in business you need to think about. There are two ways of making a profit. You either sell something at a high price and make a big profit, or you sell a lot of something at a low price and the difference becomes a bigger profit.
Yes.
For example, airtime. Everybody will buy airtime even if it's 10 shillings, but you'll still be able to make a profit because there are a million people buying it.
Yes.
But if you're going to sell gold or diamonds, you need to price it higher because there are only 5 people who will buy it.
Yes.
And so when you get into a business, always think about something called the payback period. How long will it take you for you to get back your money? And don't confuse something that we call maybe turnover. For example, if I buy a pen at 10 shillings and I sell it at 12 shillings, don't think about 12 shillings, think about 2 shillings because that's your profit.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ambitious quotes and stuff, and I think it's very misleading also. I like that you pointed that out, and it's important to pace yourself and understand your journey for what it is. And someone else's experience is not the experience. So you find a lot of people falling into depression on social media because so-and-so had a Benz. Just the other day we were in campus together. How the hell is he pushing that machine? What did he do that I didn't do? And then you find that we are conditioned to think about the destination instead of the journey. And unfortunately, money does make the world go round, but it has fueled a lot of people into thinking that it's the end game. There's a lot of unhappy people. They may or may not have...
Even some of those rich people are unhappy.
Exactly, they are.
There's always more to
But whatever you're seeing on social media is a frozen moment. But people are not understanding that, to be honest. There's a lot of people with the money, absolutely unhappy. So even people are not savoring the process of blood, sweat, and tears, like the journey of getting there. I want to shout out to also the ladies who have these super high, superficial expectations of young men today. The guy, I received a DM here once, and this girl had her dream man having muscles, and he was chocolate, tall, dark, and handsome. He's got a well-paying job, lives in a lavish apartment or whatever. But I'm thinking, if this guy is 30, or he's 32. When did he acquire this wealth? So even as much as we expect all these things,
I know where the disconnect comes from. Think about it this way, that life moves at the speed of communication. So in our parents' day, for you to get a job, you'd see the advert in the newspaper.
Yes.
You write a letter. It takes a week to get there.
Yes.
They take a month to review all the candidates and send it back. So it will take about 3 or 4 months for you to get the job.
Yes.
Today, you sit on WhatsApp, you reply immediately, 10 minutes from now you have it. So there's a lot of instant culture that's there.
Right.
So the communication that you're seeing out there is very fast and you want to keep up with it. And that communication also makes you aspire to things. And if the people that that are around you, that you're aspiring for the same things, they get there before you, then you start feeling left out. But don't judge yourself too harshly. They always think about it as your own journey.
Yes.
Because what have those people done to get to where they are?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily that you did something wrong. Some of them had better connections. Some of them had better, a parentage. And some of them also just got lucky. And so don't discount other factors when you're looking at what other people have achieved.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't be hard on yourself.
Back in the day, men were providers and they would give their wives, their significant others, an allowance. You're the homemaker, you're the homebody, you're the one in charge of the household. Whether this woman is a housewife or she was earning a living, men felt the need to give, But
there was also a lot of disparity in earnings. So you'd find you are doing the same job as the guy who's next to you, but he'd tend to earn more because and because of that sort of disparity, it
Yes.
was always, it was always the natural thing for the guy to do is to give the lady back at home some money. So you
Yes.
find both of you are even MDs, but the asking salary that this guy asked for and the one you asked for are different.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's sort of an inequality. It's actually an inequality. People need to be paid for the same amount of work that they do. But also it goes to the negotiation skills that you have while you're negotiating for it. So I always find out what is the industry standard and that kind of thing. So if you
Yes.
say the industry standard is the same, I remember once joking with one of my friends. She's a photographer, and she'd say, "I don't understand why people introduce me as the best female photographer. A photo is a photo. It doesn't matter who's behind the lens."
Yes.
And thinking about it in terms of separating things, that's where now we get into the trouble of maybe paying some people more and some others less. And now because of that sort of culture, you'd find men thinking, okay, I need to put aside something for my wife. She
Right.
earns less than me.
That's probably where it all began. I can see another one here. It says, great conversation. Mobile loans are very enticing. And you don't even realize when you're sinking deep in debt. Men should definitely still treat their ladies, not only on Valentine's Day. I can see another one here. Shout out to Michael Oula. You're listening in from Kutus. And you're saying you're following the discussion. You're loving the show. And of course, when it comes to taking care of your woman, you still need to give her something, whether she's earning or not. But I have a comment here from a lady. Her name is Sally. Sally says, well, Monique, great show. Shout out to Henry Githaiga. Great voice. And she says, well, for me, I feel like not every man would take it well if you didn't take the money that they offered, however little. So the kindest thing to do when you're in a relationship is, even if you have more money, even if you have a secret account, even if you've got a gold mine, still take his money and say thank you. It will help your relationship. I don't know about that.
Well, everybody needs to grow, yeah. So
Yes.
if the guy might learn to swallow his pride at some point,
Yes.
but if you never bring it up, you'll never know.
Yes.
Yeah, it's sort of that situation where you say, okay, if I don't take it, he'll feel bad. But if you think about it the other way around,
Yes.
and think about it that if you never raise it, you'll never really know.
And I
You
think
may
that's-
be making an assumption, yeah.
Yes, and I think that's the most important thing. We have that conversation going on here. And of course, I'm hanging out with Henry Githaiga. He is a seasoned business journalist. You've been a business journalist for how long?
For about 10 years now.
10
11.
years.
Yeah, 11 years, I think.
11
11
years.
this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing about the economy, there's never a time that you'll remember that people will say the economy was easy. Yeah. It's always harder every year. And they always tend to think, last year was a bit better. Yeah. So I think since we are alive, we'll always find, hardships. Our needs are always increasing. There are always competing needs.
Yes.
So you'll always think the economy is not as good as it is. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think there's a lot to depending on which side of the fence you're on,
Yeah.
and what kind of person you're having that conversation with.
Yeah.
For me, I'm always trying to think of creative ways and new ideas and new ways to make money. How can I make more, and what's the future looking like? I mean, I'm no.
And I think that where people go wrong is they focus more on how to make more
Yes,
rather than how to keep more.
how to keep more.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you could be making more money,
Yes.
but you're losing.
spending as much.
You're spending as much. So it's striking the balance between what you're spending and what you're earning.
Yes.
And you'll find that sometimes, because even if you wanted to start a business, you need capital. You need, you want to invest in something, you will always need capital to invest. But if you don't have the savings to invest, some opportunities will pass you by. So when you keep more, you're able to make even better decisions of what you can invest in.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you can't start with 1K, then I don't think $1 million will change your
I
life.
hear you. Well, I've got some questions for you. And of course, you can follow at Henry Githaiga and of course, Spice FM KE. Shout out to Brian Watanga. Keep your votes coming on that record rumble. I can also see Boniface and Andrew on the timeline. Lucy, thank you so much for listening in, spicing up your evening on 94.4. You're listening in from Nairobi. I've got some questions for you. Lucy here on the timeline is talking about earning more. Yeah. And it almost broke their relationship. What advice would you give? Because these dynamics change, as you've said. I think her biggest issue is disclosing the fact that she makes more money. So she tries to keep the money that she makes a secret because she doesn't want to, damage somebody's ego.
It's what you do with your money at the end of the day. So if when the guy was making more money, he used it to lord over you, then when you make more, you're more likely to react in the same way.
Yes.
So if you don't have the conversation as a couple on where you're going
Yes.
as a couple, and growth is various things. Growth is from moving from girlfriend to fiance, moving from fiance to wife or husband to parents, to even all the way to grandparents. And you'll find even some grandparents still fight over money.
Yeah.
So you're spoiling that child too much. You're not doing so. You'll always be growing. And it would be unrealistic to say that your finances won't grow. And occasionally, they will grow in different ways. One partner will start making more. And increasingly nowadays, the ladies are making more.
Yes.
And increasingly, the guys may be making less. But if you didn't have couple goals, people like this thing, hashtag couple goals.
This hashtag is too much pressure.
Yeah. And you see, you have those goals for the luxury items, but you don't have them for your financial items. So that you may see sometimes someone is earning more in terms of salary. Even you may hear the guy is making more, but the lady is earning less. But because she's in 1-2 chamas that are doing 1-2-3, overall she's doing better than the guy. But she's never looked at it that way. So some people are already making more, even in other ways than. We don't consider the factor of your savings as a big factor, but it is a big factor. Because your savings enables you to make better decisions or more expensive decisions at the end of the day. So if you want to invest in something, let's say we want to buy land and there are 10 acres available. The more money I have, the easier it is for me to buy more acreage. So every single time, the more money you have, the easier it is for you to invest. So you'll find that if you don't talk about it as a couple, then it will always hurt you. You'll always find it harder and harder. So if she keeps the secret now, I don't think it will be any easier 2 months from now, 4 months from now, 4 years from now. Yeah.
And I think when it comes to coupling, we cannot stay away from the money conversation. It's necessary. Someone here says, without money in this world, who are we kidding? Young men today are not getting married because you are extorted from dating, Valentine's Day in brackets, to asking for her hand in marriage. You're extorted again. And then when you marry someone who is not seeing what you're seeing and going the same way you're going, then you're in doom. And
but sometimes I also fault people in that logic, because you know where you're going, but you've not told your partner where you're going.
Yes.
So you've not had the conversation. You've not said, this is the kind of things I want to invest in, or this is the way I spend my money. You've not talked about it. Occasionally, you'll find that you'll sit down, even as guys. I remember one of the hardest conversations we had to have with my fiancé is changing the house, the decor, the sofas, everything. Because, she wants to do a home makeover, all these things.
Yes.
But once we sat down and started talking about it and said, okay, we can afford to do that. Let's say we're doing wallpaper. We say, let's do this wall this month. Next month we do this wall. And we broke it down into small projects, and it was easy to do. Spending the lump sum is always the big problem when it comes to couples and their finances. Because they think, one person is seeing it as a necessity and the other one is seeing it as an extravagance. Most times the guy is seeing it as an extravagance, the lady is seeing it as a necessity. She wants to feel this room captures, my personality or our personality. But the guy is thinking, black, white, yellow wall.
It doesn't matter, it's a wall.
A sofa is a sofa.
I hear you.
But the same guy has the lady will think about the big TV as an extravagance, but the guy is like, no,
we're going to need
the curved TV has come out.
Yes.
So if you don't match these expectations, and start learning each other.
No, it's important. I know of a couple that had to go through therapy because she married a spender. And that's just who he is. It's so interesting because you'd expect that to be the woman. But he was the spender. But it's a brilliant relationship, madly in love. But he spends and just like that. I mean, that's just his culture. He comes from that. So he doesn't feel the need to budget. He doesn't feel the need to plan ahead. And it affected their relationship because she said, he's going to sink us And these are some of the conversations that you're saying. And one of the things that stands out with every single angle that we look at is communicate. Because as we said earlier, there are things you cannot know until you get into the relationship. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, because you've been doing this for over 10 years and you've seen the climate change for a long time. 5-6 years ago, things were not the same. What do you predict as the jobs of the future? Because there's people who say that I need to, have something more dynamic. I need to curve my niche in my business. Or where's the money in the future when it comes to that conversation? There's young people who feel that there's redundancies in different industries, So there's some of the things that used to pay you well. And that was your cash cow 6-7 years ago. 3 years, things are changing every single year.
Actually, most of the jobs, some of the jobs we have today were not there, say, 4 years ago.
Yes.
And increasingly, machines will start doing some of our jobs. So that's why you'll find a lot of people in the passion-driven sort of industry, the things that you can't really replace a human being at, are still not going to be replaced for a very long time to come. But now, unfortunately, some of those skills are still not valued the same as the
conventional
jobs that we have. So I think always think about your industry and what it's evolving to. For example, our industry increasingly is going online. So content is the same. What do we sell? We sell content. Where you're listening where you're listening from is whether you're watching it on your computer, on your phone, listening on a normal radio, listening in your car. And I think radio is one of the biggest examples of reinventing yourself, because you think about it, when radio first came out, everybody had one in their home. But then the TV came and everybody thought, who needs a radio? The guys who make radios thought, hang on, you can't watch a TV in your car. So they reinvented the radio for the car. And you'll find a lot of people listen to radio more in their cars or on their commute. So it's the same thing. Think about where your industry is going next and start reinventing yourself. Get the skills. Keep upgrading your skills. It's not enough to have a degree in a certain area, because even before, when the degrees used to work, you'd come out and find what you are taught in class and what is happening on the ground is totally different. So always look out for what is next. But increasingly, we'll find the gig economy is going to be big. Sort of, I need a plumber, I just call. I need maybe I need a fundi to do something in my house, I just call. Those jobs are there, and even if you look at the government, they're telling people do more technical skills, and those skills are highly priced. They're highly priced per job. So I think look more towards the technical end of it, but also people management will always be important. We'll always need to manage.
So that's here to stay.
Managing people, processes, those jobs are there to stay. Any job that requires the interface between the human being and the other person. Because even for machine learning, what are they learning from? They're learning how to write that code, how to let the code evolve so that it interacts better with people. So maybe you call into a call center. 4 years ago, innovation was when you call into a call center, they tell you you can choose from the following items. It's still there today, but where we're going next, you call in, and because it has already maybe seen through maybe your Wi-Fi, it's already seen the problem that you're calling about the network, it will send you straight to the person who will fix the network. Or it will tell you immediately that, we're having a problem with this service. Please be a bit more patient as we try to resolve it. Because more and more, as we infuse machines and computer systems into our ways of life, they already know what problems we're facing. So
it's important to also have that understanding moving forward before we also say, there are no jobs, and also have that attitude. The attitude we should have is to bulk more on, making sure that whatever industry that you're in, you qualify. Because now
actually, even some of the businesses, I've had a lot of people who start businesses and they say, I became a mother, this wasn't there. So instead of letting other mothers go through it, I started this. Someone only say I became a father and I couldn't find quality toys. I started importing them. So occasionally you'll find that the felt needs that you have as a person, the gaps that you see as a person, are more often the opportunities that you can feel as a person.
I
So
like
you'll
that.
say, all my friends would need this. So instead of them looking for it the same way I looked for it and waited for it to be delivered after 1 month or 2 months, why don't I start bringing that? Because,
I like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you're in a relationship and you guys are steady. Like you are on the genuine, silk, new edition, Bobby Brown kind of level, right? So, do you believe in celebrating Valentine's Day? Because that's another cash cow that is never going away. It started off as a Western idea, but Africans are catching on and they're catching on fast. I mean, if you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Just go to social media in the next 2 weeks. Even now, there's massive campaigns on how they're going to make sure that you feel that you need to spend on this one-off day. All right.
Yeah. I think the problem I've always had with Valentine's Day is it's always the one-way-ism of it, Like the guy needs to do this for you.
Yes.
And I feel they tap into that because they know the guy is more willing to spend.
Yes.
Than the lady.
Do you think that's an actual fact that guys are more willing to spend?
They're more willing to spend in that one time. And because you need to think about it as most of the guys who will spend like that, most of them either are just new in their job, new in their relationship. This is the first opportunity that they're getting to step out in a big way.
I hear you.
Yeah. So when the opportunity presents, every guy wants to step up. Yeah. And so, but even given that, you always know the taste of your partner and that kind of thing.
Yes.
You've been with them except for the guys who hooked up in January, they're still trying to figure out.
He's trying to look for that teddy bear. He's trying to look for that teddy bear, and you're like, I don't like stuffed animals, but it's fine. I'll just take it. But
if I know you like watches, Monique, and Valentine's is like Christmas. It's there every year.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't hurt for me to buy you the gift in September and hide it. So it doesn't mean that I have to pay for it that day. Yeah, and so I think a lot of people, one good tip would be for Valentine's Day, if you can buy the gift in advance, buy it in advance. If you can book the hotel in advance, book it in advance. If you try to book it for Valentine's Day, a week to Valentine's Day, of course, it's ridiculously expensive.
Yes.
So plan the trip.
You just have to be smart about these things and still make sure.
It's not actually, I find that people think about it as being smart.
Yes.
I tend to think about it as being deliberate about it.
Got it.
Yeah, if you want to gift your partner, be deliberate about it.
Yes.
And being deliberate is knowing, planning for it ahead of time. And it also cushions you financially because they want this, so you'll start saving up for it, or you will buy it when it is still not, expensive. Yeah.
How you live dictates the company you keep. We're saying that in many words, but it's important also that even as much as you expect your significant other as you're coupling, when you're saying, I hope that you can budget, I hope you come 100% fixed, I hope you come like this, you should also bring the same thing to the table, because life is going to throw things at you, whether it's in the workplace or it's,
Yeah, I don't know who tells people that you can learn from each other. I mean, you can come into a relationship without a care for budgeting. But when you get in the relationship, learn how to budget.
Yeah.
I mean, people, give yourself room to grow and also your partner room to grow.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that maybe it's because where they came from,
yes,
there was no need for a budget. The money was available and all that kind of thing. But you can teach them. There are things that are teachable and there are things that are not teachable.
Yeah, we unlearn when we get married or when we're attached to someone. And of course, there are things that you're attracted to that you may not necessarily possess. A lifestyle change. Anything is possible.
And opposites do attract.
Absolutely.
Most people who budget tend to attract the people who don't budget.
Yes.
Yeah, because they see, oh, you have money to do this. And you see, oh, okay, that person.
But Henry, as a good book says, when you become one, you have to speak the same language. You have to be going the same direction. And maybe that's why it's so important that the things you do affect the next, your fiance. They affect your wife. They affect your husband. So may the best traits and qualities thrive in that marriage and in that union, you know. As we wrap up today's conversation, and you are just a breath of fresh air, awesome guy. I feel like I know you a little bit more. What is your advice to young people listening in and people who are also late bloomers in the class of retirement planning? What can we do in our little way? There's people who say, oh, I don't have enough yet. I will plan next year. When I get a job, I will do this. And when. let's talk to everyone tonight and say, okay, this is my capacity. This is the family that I come from. I have paid my dues. This is my situation. It varies. Everyone's different. How can we prepare well for the future?
Okay, I always like giving practical examples. So myself, I'm part of what you call a sandwich generation.
Yes.
Sandwich generation just means that you finish school, you help your siblings come up.
Yes.
So you'll find yourself paying fees and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
And because of that, I saw my kids will not have to go through this.
Yes.
So as soon as I could, I got something called, those education plans and
Yes.
that kind of thing. And when I started with 2K 500.
Yes.
It was a lot of money to me because that time I'd take home about 15K, so it was still a lot of money. And the irony of life is the less you earn, the harder it is to save.
Yes.
Yeah. But you just start with something, 2 shillings, 5 shillings, and don't think about retirement as something that is far off. Think about it as sustaining your lifestyle.
Yes.
And then also think about 2 things. The way the job market is at the moment, jobs are changing and kind of things. So in 2-3 years, your job may be redundant. And in that time, what will you do? So increasingly, you find yourself having to plan for maybe for retirement sooner or forced early retirement, all these kind of schemes that are out there.
Yes.
So one of the simplest things to do is go look for those things they call education plans. They are there by every other insurance company. A lot of people say they don't make a lot of sense because they don't earn as much. But the question I always ask people is, how much money are you saving even without that plan? There are things you call commitment devices. So you commit your money to something. It's like taxes. When your salary comes in, you don't touch it. It's already been paid, yet you still have to file. So if you can have a standing order to set aside a certain amount of money that goes into an account that you're not able to easily access, that's one of the ways to start saving for retirement.
Yes.
And it's never too late to start. But the earlier you start, the better.
Yes.
Because like I said, when you're younger, before you get married, before you get kids, you have more disposable income. So while you can, save as much as you can. So most of the guys who would be able to save 50% of their salary, they're not yet married, they don't have children yet. So that's the best time to save more.
Yeah.
But as your needs increase, you may be able to save less. But ironically, even as your needs increase,
yes,
you find there's a promotion, you are doing a side hustle here and there, and you're able to save.
Yeah.
So occasionally I tell people, once your savings hit a certain amount, say 20K, 30K, start investing it in something that gives a return. One of the simplest ones is these things they call money market funds. Money market funds is compound interest. Compound interest simply means that if you put in 10K today, you earn an interest of maybe 100 shillings that month. Next month, they won't invest 10K, they'll invest 10K 100. So your money is sort of growing interest on interest.
Yes.
So you do that for a longer time and you find that over time it will make sense.
Yeah.
But don't touch that money. Let it stay out there.
Yeah.
So create sort of a fund for your emergencies. Because the things that hurt people the most, emergencies, healthcare. So one of the simple things, a lot of young people have to keep sending money back home. NHIF is 500 shillings. Get it for your mom, your grandpa, anyone who may need it.
Yes.
Enroll them in these simple healthcare systems because most times they will cover some of the cost. They'll cushion you. You don't have to dip into your savings to take out that money. Yourself, if you are an entrepreneur, I found a lot of entrepreneurs, especially the younger ones, that don't have medical care. If you're admitted today, it will take away so much of your money.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you've saved, but with the medical care, it might cushion you.
Yes.
So watch out for certain things like get the most affordable cover you can at the moment. If you don't have a cover, get an affordable one. If you have one from your office, do the groundwork. Find out how much are you covered for. You'll find some companies cover 400K inpatient, and you'll find 400K is mostly a week or so in a major hospital.
Yes.
So if your illness lasts longer or that of your dependents lasts longer, then you're at a disadvantage. So ask them if you can top up. so that the cover extends to more things
Yes.
or to a longer period of time. So one of the things that will hurt you, emergencies, most of them are health related. Get a cover, even the most basic one, NHIF, for yourself, your sibling, or anyone who might need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll find some of them are very affordable. NHIF is 500.
Yes.
Seriously, you can't afford that for your mom.
There should be
your
ways.
dad. Yeah, you know.
There's always a
Yes,
way.
Yeah, so start with the simpler things. The more money you get, you can make them more sophisticated.
Yes. Wow,
Yeah.
I like this conversation, and like is an understatement. I love this conversation. Also because looking at you, I don't know if guys are streaming right now on spicefm.co.ke. You should see Henry's face when he talks about money.
Yeah.
He's really passionate about this, and you know, when you come from an informed place, you have no idea how much you've opened our eyes, and of course, you know, also kind of stamped something that we already probably knew, but the urgency of this conversation tonight, everyone listening in is probably thinking, I can do better in this area. And before I walk down the aisle with this other person, I need to understand where they are financially and where are we going? What is our plan? We cannot obviously isolate these two things, relationships and money.